10 goals then across the two quarter-finals. First leg, Super Tuesday, did not disappoint. Let's start with the Guardian then. Charlotte, what's your take on this? Raising the roof. How good was that in Spain tonight?
Oh, it was brilliant, wasn't it? I think as soon as Bernardo Silva scored in the second minute, we knew we were going to be in for an exciting night of football. And you're right, it definitely didn't disappoint. I thought Manchester City at times weren't their usual excellent selves when going forward. Obviously, we know how good they are on the ball. They could keep possession, but Rodri was a bit uncharacteristically sloppy at times in midfield, and the pace and the power that Real Madrid's front three have was just frightening, isn't it? And well, try and pick the best of the bunch out of all those goals. All Manchester City three came from outside the box, and then that late equaliser as well for Real Madrid. Unbelievable, all of them. It was one of those, if you were trying to keep up with both games, I think people were saying every time they flipped channel, they were missing a goal. So much drama, but the All-English semi-final is just about still on, isn't it?
Very much still on. Sensational goals as well. There was a big debate in the Sky Sports News studio on the Soccer Special about whether Gvardiol or Foden's goal was the better. Interesting that Charlotte mentions Rodri perhaps being a little bit lax. David, I've got a stat from my producer saying he's now unbeaten to 66 games in all competitions with Manchester City. But do you agree with that? Do you agree that signs perhaps that City is still looking a little bit vulnerable at the back tonight?
I was just about to say, Teddy, when he plays, they don't lose, and that record's been maintained. He can't always be at his absolute best, and this was in the Bernabeu against Real Madrid, and he wasn't quite on it. They were a bit depleted at the back, of course, as well. There was no John Stones in there, and Kyle Walker was a miss. You saw that with the goal from Rodrigo. Ederson not in goal, even though his replacement is perfectly capable. It wasn't Manchester City's strongest team. And so, yeah, there is a vulnerability there. I think we've seen it a little bit in the Premier League this season. That's probably why they're not running away with the title race. And Real Madrid will have some optimism going into the second leg. Certainly, I think more than they did this time last year when they got absolutely annihilated. But this is becoming a feature of the Champions League, isn't it? These two meeting in the knockout stages 3 in 4 years, I think. And obviously the last 2 years have put on epics. This seems to be a third. I think it was the highest quality tie we'll see, surely, in the knockout stages. Probably should be the final. The goals that you mentioned there, I think Foden's probably edges it. Sorry to Gvardiol, because that was his first goal for Manchester City, but Foden is on absolute fire at the moment. We spoke about him on here last week, and we should do again because he's irrepressible, but a bit of a concern there with the injury. They missed Kevin De Bruyne, obviously sick before the match. Erling Haaland still not quite hitting his straps. So there will be concerns for Pep Guardiola, not just in Europe, but in the Premier League as well.
Yeah, some brilliant subplots, Charlotte, involving Foden, weren't there? There's the head-to-head with Jude Bellingham, with some people saying it's a shootout between them for 10 for England, and then De Bruyne's throwing up in the dressing room before the game and can't come out and play, so Foden plays centrally and scores a cracker. Has he strengthened his claims at both club level and international level to be that main man at 10?
Yeah, of course he is, because he got moved in the second half, didn't he? And that's exactly the position he was in when he scored that unbelievable goal. Because as I was saying before, Manchester City, they're getting themselves in good positions, but they just they couldn't find Erling Haaland, as David was saying. They were just lacking that little final ball, but two unbelievable moments of quality. Well, in the second half from Phil Foden and Gvardiol, and what attacking options Gareth Southgate has at his disposal. So I think if you're comparing the two of them head to head, I think Jude Bellingham obviously showed some great class. He had controlled that ball late on over the top, didn't he? And just couldn't quite finish it off to get a late winner for Real Madrid. But I think Foden's performance was slightly better tonight than Bellingham's if we were going to compare them both. But for me, I'd like to see them both in the starting 11, really, for England.
Yeah, I think a lot of England fans would agree with that. David, how do you see the tie poised? They've got some big games coming up, haven't they, City? Of course, the second leg, then the FA Cup semi-final after that. Is Luton a fairly nice game for them at home at the weekend in between the two Champions League ties?
Yeah, we'll take nothing away from Luton. They've had a really impressive season given their relatively meagre resources, but Manchester City should come through that. They've been in this position so many times now, Teddy, season after season. This is where they turn it on. I think I was listening to Peter Schmeichel before the game at the weekend, and he was sort of saying, this is where the moment that Sir Alex Ferguson used to say the season begins, and it really does, because Manchester City seem to hit their straps when it matters most in these final weeks, regardless of fixture congestion, regardless of the sort of caliber of opposition. And so I think going back into the second leg on home soil, which is crucial, despite there being no away goals on this occasion, they will probably, start that again as the favourites. But one thing we learned tonight is, again, just never write off Real Madrid. We saw them 2 years ago, stunning Manchester City. Admittedly, the second leg was at home on that occasion in the Bernabeu, but they have got the weapons. We mentioned Rodrigo there and Bellingham, but Vinicius, and a special word for Valverde. Absolutely outstanding. Every time I watch him, he's one of the best players in the world. Uruguay international, young, he's got pace, he's got an eye for goal, his passing, his movement, just brilliant. But they are going to lose Tchouaméni to suspension for the second leg, and he, in his own right, is a €100 million player and one of the best in the world. So, yeah, it's set up perfectly, and it should be an absolute cracker at the Etihad.